Hopefully should be live now, and the stream is public, so we are good. Just waiting for the last people to join, and then we can begin. Dang it, I've got the incorrect thumbnail. I guess if I ever do interviews or something, we'll be seeing Hungary, not Emilia. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? But we're going to be going in 1 minute. Just waiting for the last few people to join. And then we can get going. Just a bit longer to go, and then we are going. The tier's just been told to ready up now, so we should be going. Why is only 4 people readying up? Now up to 5. Once we have 6, the lobby will begin. And then we can start. And then we are looking good. Okay, finally we have the timer. And then we can get going into qualifying for the Emilia Romagna Grand Prix. As the real Grand Prix title is, it is the Rolex Gran Premio del Made in Italy del Emilia Romagna, I think. That was what it was last year. Not sure about this year. We're loading into short qualifying for a reasonably tricky track. How many corners does it have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Is it 15 corners? I should probably check. It's not been a race briefing, so we don't have a track map, which is always lovely to see. Fortunately, it's a simple pit lane. So they shouldn't need further instruction for how to use it, in theory, right? Right, A? If anyone messes up pit entry or pit exit, I will be disappointed, I think is the term. But we've loaded into qualifying. Right now, Ivanek, our championship leader, extending the gap in Hungary despite getting a miserable P6, which is better than all the championship rivals. And Akalik has just joined. And we've got our first car out of track, which is Mitch Snape, who is currently P3 in the standings. I might be able to beat David Foy in the Haas, who is missing this race and the next race, which I believe is at France. And we've got Brazil, Italy and Jeddah. So, some of my best tracks after this. Great tracks to drive, I think. Imola's okay. Better than Portugal. But I don't think it's as good as France. Personally, I like France. Just saying. Got one view and 0 concurrent views, which is always nice to see. The clouds do look a bit dark though. I'll get up some spectator menu stuff, so we don't need that. Let's get the top speeds. I remember last season in the race it was like a wet to dry, and that meant that the difference between the fastest and slowest people in a straight line was maybe 25 kilometers an hour. It's like Red Bull with the DRS versus a normal car sort of advantage. And also I cried that race because there was a safety car and it was drying up pretty rapidly, and some people didn't box from extreme wets to inters, which is sad, but Mitch is taking all the sausage curb, which you can do if you run a specific setup compromise. That's a lot of curb use. Like, a lot. I guess Mitch has gone for the, like, 411 ride height or whatever. Yeah, there's some ride height hack. Makes you slow on the straights, but fast over big curbs. But the Ferrari's now going through Acqua Minerale, possibly the most hard braking zone on the game. Actually, no, it's not Bahrain turn 10. Apparently we have -1 viewers on the stream right now. I'm going to need to take a photo of that because it is funny. But Mitch is now coming through Srivatsa, right? Yeah, it's Srivatsa. And out of the final corner, opening DRS briefly. The run to the line, and it's a 17.6, which not optimal. Who's next to finish a lap? There's a Mercedes Bakalik. What happened to Bakalik? I don't know. But there's a Mercedes of Markovsky coming across the line. It's a 16.8. You see Bakalik's car here. Did he spin out the pit lane? That is some skill issue, as I like to say. But Lepage is currently provisional P1. Ivanek, championship leader, not had the best qualifying session so far, although got P4 after a miserable qualifying in Singapore. So I guess anything is, well, possible. And there's only, well, you're ahead of Bakalik at least, so can't be that bad. Is Zimianchuk on a lap? Invalidated, but starting a new lap. Let's find more with the Red Bull. Starting another lap now. Now coming down into Tamburello, 330 kilometers an hour. Using curb at the first apex, but staying away from the yellow sausages afterwards. Now into Villeneuve. Taking it nice and carefully, although has a massive snap on exit and has a half spin, but no damage, so we'll probably just abort this run. Anyone else on that? Morton's just finishing one now. It is a 17.5, so ahead of quite a few people. What's Verona up to? Coming through Tamburello now. On the short straight into Villeneuve. Taking it nice and clean through the corner. Now into Tosa, which is a relatively slow speed corner where traction is very important. And it's a purple first sector apparently. Now coming through Piratella, one of the fastest corners on the track. Keeping it just within track limits. Down to Acqua Minerale. Right on the limit of grip. Now coming out of the corner into Variante Alta, opting to not take the curbs. Last year's game used to definitely need to take the curbs. This year's game it's like 50-50 as to whether you want to do it. We're now coming into Rabatza, keeping it well within track limits on the track, not going for an excursion on the gravel, and that's enough for P2 right now. So not too bad. Not much is happening right now, I think. Morton's on an in-lap, I think, so is Kapuzniak, as is Vona and Lepage, so Zaluski will be the next person to start a lap. Just doing an out lap now, trying to get some heat into those tyres, although that there is a bit sketchy and you don't really want to be running off track like that, because you risk spinning it in a wall and also cutting Variante Alta a decent amount. Probably a bit too much. Probably a bit not allowed with the track limits. Now coming out of that, so getting on the power. Now across the line, opening DRS. Barreling down the main straight, which is 1.3 kilometers long, which is only 100 meters shorter than at Mexico. Coming into Tamburello now. Again, just trying to get a clean lap on the board like most other drivers have so far. Although running a bit wide through Villeneuve, although it doesn't invalidate because the car was still going relatively slowly off track, so no time gained there, but that is not ideal, and I'm not sure whether lawn mowing is the fastest way to take an F1 car around, but I guess it's a shorter line, so probably decent. Giacomo Minerali done quite nicely, in fact. Now on the short run up to Variante Alta, I'm not sure if this or Piratella is the highest corner on the track. Both of them seem quite high. As we're now coming down into the final corners, which I think I called Rabatza, right? Yeah. Now on exit, opening up the DRS, and it is in 18.7, so quite a bit of time to find, but of course there was that mistake in Villeneuve. Jimmy Hendricks on a lap now, opting to use curb from the inside, the first apex of Villeneuve. Interesting choice, but comes out of Tosa where there aren't really any sausage curbs that you need to avoid, it's just grass off the track. Going into Piratella, opting to keep it in 6th for the extra stability. Now into Minerali, keeping it in 4th, getting some good traction off the exit. Now into the chicane, doing it very nicely, in fact. Right on the edge of track limits, now out of the corner, coming down into, well, whatever this corner is, and it's a pretty nice line. And now out of the exit, opening DRS, and it is a 16.3, which is the fastest lap, so a very beautiful lap from the Red Bull. Claudio Herbert's on a lap now. What can the Mercedes do? Taking it nice and calm through Piratella. Went to Acqua Minerali. Again, just keeping it clean to try and get a valid banker lap on the board, which is probably a good bet. Again, nice and safe, but not making any mistakes right now, which is good for your lap time. Now into the final 2 corners, where you need to make sure you keep it out of the gravel traps, because that costs you time. Now opening up the DRS, and it is a 16.7, so about middle of the pack. Is anyone else on that? Mitch is just invalidated and he's coming back into the pits. That Lepage also invalidated on an out lap. Not really sure, but we can ride on board with the Haas. See whether he's running his patented ultra low downforce setup. He's just coming across the line now, and straight line speed's decent, but is it though? Only 328, we saw 330 earlier, and isn't able to keep it under control in Tamburello, so I think that might be an aborted lap. That's on an in lap. What can Rona do? 15 milliseconds up after one sector. Down to 4th gear through Piratella, maybe needing some extra rotation. Into Aquaman, 5th gear, short shifting to 6th. These are some odd gear choices, but we haven't seen a spin from the Aston Martin this lap, which is a good thing, I think. Now coming down into the final corners. Not opting to use all the curb between the two Ravazzas, but if you run out a bit too wide, you get track limit, and opting to come into the pits, likely because of a lack of time improvement. Scabble Varga on a good lap, maybe. Alpine is currently going around the circuit. Now into Acqua Minerali, very easy to lock the brakes and go straight on, but not for the Alpine, as the Williams gets out of the way, braking just at the 50-meter board, carrying a lot of speed into the corner, and now getting on the power, and it was apparently a purple middle sector, although that disappeared just as I said it. Now into the final Ravazza, keeping it nice and smooth in 4th gear, but running a tiny bit wide, but keeping it valid, and it is a 16.6, so P3 for now. Just to push Niak on a lap. Might just be starting one now, but only has 1.2 laps of fuel left in the car, so might just head back into the pits to avoid doing the in-lap on low fuel. Markowski has a lot of battery, so isn't on a push lap right now. Can Morton improve? That's a lift, so no. Leakage is a few tenths down. And is heading back into the pits. Or probably heading back into the pits as well. Markovski's in the pits, so we're just having a bit of a lull before the final runs, and Rona is first driver out. So I guess the Aston Martin will be getting some commentary at the start of the final run. Teammate of championship leader Ivanek, and I think Aston Martin are going to be getting this championship. Probably. Right? A? Just doing the final preparation on the tyres. Doing a bit of weaving to get some heat in. Although that will add wear. Yeah, it will add wear. Not sure. I don't think it's worth it personally, because the tyres just naturally heat up by driving on the straight, because there's so much downforce pushing the tyres into the road that makes the tyres pretty toasty. Now opening DRS for the Aston Martin. What speed is it down the straight? 3:31. Now brake for Tamburello, just about getting it stopped in time. Now coming into Villeneuve, there's some traffic a bit further ahead. Hopefully that won't be a distraction for the Aston Martin, but carrying it just a tiny bit deep, but keeping it well managed. Into Toza, picking up some good grip on exit, and it's purple first sector according to the game. Now into Piratella. It's done very nicely, just about keeping within track length, though there is an Alfa Romeo ahead, which might be giving some dirty air, and will certainly be very distracting. And I think that is a blocked lap. So, not ideal for Morton, although you don't need to cut the track like that and ram the car off track. But that might be a qualifying ban for Morton next round. Should we go on board with Rona? Do you know of the neutral and first trick? Seemingly not, but I'll give you another shot, although these tyres are probably quite cooked at the moment, and the ERS is not looking optimal at the moment. But we go on board with another lap for the Aston Martins. You seem to never catch a break in qualifying, as of lately. Coming out of Tamburello, it is decent now into Villeneuve, keeping it very nice and clean. Down to Tozer, braking at the 50 metre, we're getting the car rotated well. They're getting on the power out of the corner, as it seems like Ivanex had a spin in Tamburello, bringing out the yellow flag. So, again, not the best qualifying for Aston Martin, although again, Rona's hooking up Piratella quite well, although the battery is starting to look a bit low. But out of Aqua Minerali, it is not that bad of a lap, if I'm being completely honest. Although Rona has seemingly slowed down his car. I don't understand. There's enough fuel left in the car. Or is it just lag? Is Rona desync with me? Maybe. Well, I hope he hasn't desync with the other drivers, but it is a 16.3, which is pole position for now. Can the Trip do anything about it? No. Lepage can't. What about Gabel Varga in the Alpine? Was coming through Vatsa. And now out of the final corner. On the run to the line, what time is it? It is a 16.0, so that will be likely pole position, as Herbert is the only driver who can improve, and improves up to 6th place, displacing Mitch Snape. So, a decent qualifying for the Mercedes, but you can see your grid position there, as I'll just briefly pop out for a minute. Hello again, everyone. We are just 10 seconds away from race start, and it is a nice and sunny day for us today in Emilia Romagna. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 red lights. And away we go for the Emilia Romagna Grand Prix, and it's a strong start from Gabor Varga, who seems to be able to defend the lead right now, as it seems like it's going to be too wide further back, as they all just about seem to make it through, although there's contact between a Mercedes and a Williams, so not the best, but they seem to have all made it through without any significant damage. Although there is side-by-side further back, although no longer, although the Red Bull is lacking in the front wing department and running a bit deep there. However, Gabor Varga on the mediums have been able to just drive away from everyone behind, and Ziemianchuk is a bit stuck behind Rona, who is on the hards. It seems like the mediums are a much stronger tyre at the moment, as they are most tracks, if I'm being honest. Although Rona runs a bit deep and Ziemianchuk tries to capitalise on it, however is unable to do so, although it seems like Rona's just going to allow the Red Bull through to avoid the battling, although the Red Bull runs deep into the corner, and that will allow Ivanek to get through as well. So after having not the best start, Ivanek's already up to P3, and Ziemianchuk having looked to be threatening for the what's it called, P2, is all the way down to P5. However, we get the tyres up, and it seems like we've got a mixture of mediums and hards across the grid. However, Ziemianchuk on the much grippier tyre right now is going to look to regain those positions. He's just lost, although it has a massive snap out of toes, and that will allow Mitch Snake through. Mitch is up to P5, having started P7 in the grid. And also Herbert, having started P6, is now up to P4, as well as Rona. Wait, Ivanek's P2 already, so a very strong start for the championship leader, and the driver is a massive 72 points ahead of Gabor Varga in the championship, so we'll probably accept a P2. Is Herbert going to put Rona under any pressure? Not sure. Maybe the Aston Martins will work together with the DRS, although DRS gets enabled quite late at Imola, with there only being one DRS zone and the detection zone being right at the end of the lap and the DRS opening next lap, so you only really get DRS till lap 4. However, Markovski gets ahead of Mitch, who doesn't fight hard and opts to just save the battery in the Ferrari, knowing that there is a tyre disadvantage on that car. And also, Ziemianchuk's down to P7, so this has really been a disaster start for the Red Bull. After first going deep in Vatsa, lap 1, everything's not going so well. Although, able to, again, just getting those snaps, so maybe something wrong with the setup, possibly rear wing damages. Bakalik and Lapage are now both able to get past, which is really not ideal, if you ask me. Ramona's dropped out of his teammate's DRS, and Herbert is now just cruising, really. Then Ramona, although I'm not sure I would describe this as cruising, as Bakalik gone off quite wide. So Markovski's been able to close into within. What's happened to Herbert? Something that is not ideal from the Mercedes, if I'm being completely honest. That's a bit naughty. But mistakes are starting to creep in for some drivers, and we're only 4 laps in, so not looking ideal. But Jorn Rasmussen's up to P8 in all of this, although he's a bit cheeky with the track limits there. although not the best one through Acqua Minerale. I think the AlphaTauri will just about be within DRS for the long straight, and it is a very long DRS zone, although it is the only DRS zone, so you'd hope it's long. Although Markovski seems to have a bit more pace right now and has just pulled away that little bit. And will Lepage be trying to go for a move on Bjorn? 7/10 back now, although the Haas might be able to. I don't think the Haas will be able to get past the straight. If this was last year's game, I would say yes, given the power switching and DRS, but maybe not this game. Although Bjorn's red light is flashing, which will indicate to the Haas that it's a bit short on energy, let's just say. As Bjorn runs very wide through Villeneuve, and Lepage is going around the outside and is able to get the move done before the apex of Toza. This might be the only battle. Bakalik and Zalewski. Hopefully something interesting happens this race, because right now these are the only two people within DRS. 1 on 3 lap old hards having to box lap 1, and 1 on 1 lap old mediums having to box lap 3. I suspect both of them will need to be making one more pit stop, although Bakalik on those mediums seems to have much more grip than the hards, and Zalewski just lets the Alfa Romeo through, so Bakalik seems to have run a bit wise. There's yellow flags, as I think that's Kapuzniak off at the final corner, and Bakalik is ahead. And Zalewski's also out of battery, so I guess no DRS. What should I talk about? I guess the gap between these two could be interesting. Is there anyone in chat? If you are, it'd be nice to know that you exist. Now within DRS of Bjorn, so it may be a mistake from the AlphaTauri, so something interesting. Maybe this race will be a bit like Singapore. Nothing really in the middle, but then a spicy ending after safety car. Kapuzniak is able to get past Rasmussen by just taking a far better line through Acqua Minerale, as the AlphaTauri is seeming to struggle a little bit to get acclimatised to this track. We've got another battle, this time for P6 between Morten Schulze and Markovski in the Mercedes. What's happened? Am I desynced with everyone? Maybe. Hopefully they're not desynced with each other, because that would be not ideal, as Morten goes very deep and Markovski is able to take the position. Also, Herbert is now back within range of Vona. And Bakalik sets the fastest lap on 3 lap newer mediums than the leaders, so showing okay pace. I'm a bit sleepy. But Herbert's within half a second coming down into the DRS zone, so might be looking to do an overtake, although it doesn't get the gets a terrible run through Avatsa and is now 7/10 back onto the straight, although the Mercedes might be running slightly lower downforce with a spinner further back. It's now cleared itself. Also, you've got Morten on Markovski again, and the Alfa Romeo is able to get ahead, but then runs deep in Tamburello, and that gives a position back to the Mercedes. Also pushing that in the pit, maybe with damage or something, because it's very early to box off the mediums. go back and with Herbert, who is chasing down Rona who is in the Aston Martin. These two are losing about a second a lap to the leaders on average. So it's not going super quick. Though they are on the halves, but I think the tyre delta is like probably about 5/10 right now, maybe a bit less. Although it would have been close to a second at the start, although not quite a second a lap. Herbert's about as close this time, but again, not going for the move, and Rona also has a bit more battery to defend. Morton is using all the battery available right now, and is able to just breeze past the Mercedes, who can't put up a fight really, other than using battery, although the Mercedes just opts to save it for now. Although Markowski is very close to the back of Morton, who seems to have made a mistake out of Tamburello, and now the Mercedes is back through, and that might also invite Lapage into the fray with the dirty tyres and dirty side pods on that Alfa Romeo. Will Lapage be able to close in on the Mercedes head, maybe? Taking the corner, Piratella quite nicely. No attack from Minerali, it is short shifting to 5th with that additional traction. And keeps it clean again, and there's a Red Bull who's spun further back from Siemienczuk. So it seemed like a mistake-prone race, although this track is tricky with all the curbs and stuff. Right? Is Herbert going to be able to do anything? No, not this lap. Right now, just sitting in a DRS train. Rona's got a bit more battery than the last time I checked, and Herbert's got a bit less, so seems advantage Aston Martin right now. It is just coming through into the middle sector now. Short shifting to 4th, although getting a tiny slide on exit, which is not ideal if you ask me. Now into Piratella trying to close in on the Mercedes ahead. Roughly equal in terms of time. And Zach Minerali keeping within track limits as Herbert now gets 3-second time penalty for multiple warnings. Which I'm not sure whether it's easy or if it's hard to get warnings at Imola. I guess there's Aqua Minerali, Piratella and Davian Trialta, as well as the Vats if you run wide on this curve specifically. Although it doesn't feel as difficult as a track like Mexico or in particular Canada. Although statistically it seems like a lot of people get penalties here. It was finally within DRS, probably should have noticed that earlier, but oh well. Schultz has got a 3-second time penalty, which is really not helping the cause. Let's just say, although 27.5 seconds ahead of Jorn Rasmussen, so I'm not sure those 3 seconds mean very much. The pit lane at Imola is a very long one. I'm actually not sure exactly how long. I think it's like about 28 seconds. So it will be definitely a one-stop today. This track's always been a one-stop. It's only really existed on this game and last year's game. This game every track is hard medium. Last game every track was medium soft, basically. Yeah. Right now Baffert seems a bit stuck behind Jorn Rasmussen, who runs a bit wide through Not coming in early, and Backlick thinks about going for the move but backs out, maybe for DRS. As the Alfa Romeo is seemingly a bit stuck behind the Alpha Tauri, and the Alpha Tauri allows the Alfa Romeo to. I wonder if Rasmussen's going to try and go for the DRS B overtake, although that is not how you should be taking final corner if you want to do that strategy, in my personal opinion. But anyways, maybe just dropped out of DRS of Markovsky, although it has quite a bit more ERS, although seems to want to save it as Mitch Snape now gets a 3-second time penalty with multiple warnings, so that will really not be helping in the battle with Markovsky and Leipzig. Although the Ferrari will get the much better medium tyres at the end of the race. This should come in handy, I guess. Got a battle for P11, P10 actually, as Simientrix now caught the back of Bjorn. He's struggling in pace a bit, and the Red Bull is just able to take so much more speed to the corner. It's literally criminal, as Ronan now gets 3 seconds more warning, so all of the alternate strat runners are with time penalties now, which is not reflecting good. Maybe the hard tires are that bad. Kapuzniak is now right on the back of Zalewski. And we'll have the aid of the drag reduction system as well as Slipstream, and the Red Bull is out of DRS as well. For the Williams, it will just be an easy move past for Tamburello, as Vargas already in the pits. That is an early pit stop. What are the gaps going to be like after the pit stop? Because I think the Alpine will emerge behind Leipzig and Markovsky. Although we are almost at the halfway point of this Grand Prix, so it's not spectacularly early. And the gap to leader is 23.5 seconds, so I'm not sure what it was before the pit stop, but again, it's a very long pit lane. Yeah, it's a very long pit lane, what else do I have to say? And also the tyre warm-up's not going to feel that nice at any track really, but it's not as bad as Japan, but still bad. However, once these tyres get fired up, the Alpine should be on a bit of a charge after Leipzig and Markovsky, although we'll be hoping to not get stuck in traffic, but instead benefit from DRS, which is enabled. Ivanek's in the pits now, so Varga is 24 seconds behind. We'll see where the Aston Martin pops out relatively. After doing 14 laps on the mediums, now doing 18 laps on the hards, so a reasonable balance as Markovsky's in the pits. Varga is dumping the battery, where's Ivanek going to pop out? Just about see the Aston Martin in the background, so 2.5 seconds behind, so it's about a 26.5 second pit stop here, although Ivanek has very slowly been whittling down the gap as the race has progressed. Pozniak's on the back of Rasmussen, which is not what you want to happen to you, because the AlphaTauri is not that quick in the corners and boxes to get out of the way, you could say. Is there anything else going on? Verona with the penalty is currently leading the race, followed by Herber with the penalty and then Mitch with the penalty, but Leapage is seemingly closing into Mitch right now and might be able to get the position later on. So he's out another lap, so seemingly happy with those medium tyres, opting to do half of the race them as Morton now. It's the 3-second time penalty for multiple warnings, which is really not ideal, especially when you've got a car 1.8 seconds behind you, because that puts them within penalty range, although Ziemianchuk will have to box again, whereas the Alfa Romeo will not. Ziemianchuk is now just about within the DRS range of the Alfa Romeo ahead, however it is a full lap until you can get DRS. So why is the Alfa Romeo going so slowly? Maybe it's good DRS, but the gap's now been evaporated down to not that many tenths. They're now about 10 through into Civitella, the fast left-hander now down the hill and into Minerales. The Red Bull is really approaching the back of the Alfa Romeo, and we need to be careful to not rear end it during the corner, which is performed successfully. Now coming out up into one of the slowest corners on the track, Variante Alta. It's been a nice run for the Red Bull, who is going to be right on the tail and in the strongest of slipstreams from Morton Schulze, as we've got a spin of Leapage unfortunately out front. Maybe the mediums aren't liking being 16 laps, however this Red Bull is 4 tenths behind using battery and DRS and the Aston Martin. Will there be a move made in turn 1? Seeming like it, as the Red Bull 60 inside. Williams 60 outside. I've just realised I've left that up on screen for the entire time. And Ironet is right on the back of Leapage. And is also dropping back a bit from Gabel Varga, so not the best of races for Ironet, as Rasmussen gets a directly second time on the corner cutting. What corner is that? That's Variante Alta, so not too surprising. If you cut it, like, really cut it, you will get an instant penalty, as Leapage has spun it down. And that gives the position to Ivanek, who will get 3 DRS. There is many seconds behind Varga. Varga gets stuck behind Mitch Snape in the traffic and dirty air. Ivanek's close up. That is a possibility. However, getting DRS and breezing past the Ferrari is another possibility, and the Ferrari also boxing is yet again another permutation of what could happen. But one thing that we know right now is that the Alpine is pretty confident on those tyres with the car and all. It should be able to stick close to the back of Mitch, as there will be DRS after the exit of the back, so they're just crossing the detection line now, and the Alpine is comfortably within, as they're now heading out of the final corner down the main straight, and Mitch is into the pits. So again, not ideal for Ivanek, who is 5.5 seconds behind, and Rona is now leading the Grand Prix in P1 in the Aston Martin. As Mitch Snape is coming out of the pit lane right now. Onto the mediums. And is 7 seconds behind Leipzig, although there's a big difference in tyre age, so the Ferrari is probably looking not too shabby, I would say, and might be also looking to pull out of Markowski, although we'll need to have the tyres fire on quick to do that. And that slide is really not what you're going to be wanting, as Zalewski gets 3 second time from also warnings over Markowski. So now in the Mercedes, and is chasing after Mitch Snake in the Ferrari versus Mercedes, if you remember back in the days when they both made quick cars, and the Ferrari would just find a way to bottle it in typical Ferrari style. Well, they've got rid of Binotto and person in charge of Ferrari before Binotto, whatever they're called. Was it Arriva Benny or something like that? Well, the Tifosi will be coming out in force here to cheer on the Ferrari, as the Mercedes seems to have the 2014 engine in it, although it runs a bit deep to allow Mitch to try and challenge around the outside on the exit of Santarello and going to Villeneuve. He thinks about going side by side but is forced to concede the position, so not looking ideal for Mitch right now despite having the better tyres, although they should finally have been fired up temperature, and that is demonstrated by the far stronger exit, and it seems like the Mercedes is having to use a small amount of battery to pull away just a little bit as the car runs a bit wide, and Rona finally comes into the pits. Well, the Aston Martin emerged relative to these guys. I'm not sure, but probably ahead of Herbert, behind Ivanek. But they're now just heading their way through the Variante Alta, now coming into the final corner. Mitch might be looking to go for an overtake down the straight, however Claudio sets the fastest lap of the race. And some pretty fresh mediums, so a pretty good showing from a Mercedes driver. I think she's just unable to close in with that not so great engine. I was about to say 2019 Ferrari engine, but that's the opposite. So it's definitely not that. Maybe more like a 2020 engine. You get what I mean, right? Leipzig has box and mediums over to soft, so trying an unconventional strategy. I'm not sure how Morton's binned it. And that's brought out the safety car. Finally, some excitement. Let's go. Rona's looking in a good position apart from that penalty, and that will allow Ivanek to close right up onto the back of Cabal Varga, who's headed into the pits. Presumably to strap on a set of mediums, although maybe going for softs, but Ivanek's also in the pits. And Rona is catapulted into the race lead, albeit with the penalty, and this will also put Herbert in P2. I think Markos I'm not sure where the Mercedes will be relative to the leaders who've just boxed, but this will also allow Bakalik to get off those aging tyres. And the Mercedes opts to stay out and was 26 seconds behind Ivanek coming through the pit lane, and is just about behind coming out. But this will also allow Mitch Snake to close up, although there is the time penalty. But this has really spiced up the race, as Abel Varga is no longer leading, was no longer just comfortably leading the race. Unlike the start, where the Alpine just let all the carnage happen behind. Unfortunately, it seems like Zalewski is a lap down and will not be able to unlap. As is Rasmussen, unfortunately. Which is a shame for them. Normally when you're quite far back and the safety car comes out, that is good for you, but this time, not really. Although your gap to the leader decreases a small amount, your gap to the people that you're driving against increases by, let's just say it's a large amount. This is the first lap on the safety. We're going to be guaranteed a second lap on the safety car because it isn't the end of the race. And we might get a third lap depending on whether the Pushniak catches up, although I think that's seeming likely, as right now I just bit on a peppercorn that I had during dinner and it's feeling very spicy, just like this race will hopefully be. All 6 of you watching the stream, if you could like it now, and I can see the numbers going up, that would be appreciated for the algorithm and all of that stuff. As the Williams is going quite slowly, this is a weird strategy, I'm not sure why. Those now picking up the pace again, and we'll probably be looking to catch up to the cars ahead. If it weren't for that penalty, Rona would be in an excellent position, as well as Herbert, although they'll probably be fighting hard for position and not making it easy for Ivanek or Varga, as Rona slows down quite a lot as the safety car doesn't have the downforce through Piratella, so it needs to slow down a bit as the entire train has now caught up. So we should be safety car in this lapping. As they head over into the final sector now. Safety car in this lap, just as I predicted, although we have got the Red Bull of Zalewski within the train, so we'll need to get out of the way when the safety car restart happens as per the rules. So does Rasmussen. Although what this will do is this will make the gap between Varga and Herbert just that little bit bigger, so might allow Rona and co to pull away maybe out of the 3 seconds. However, the tyres of Varga and Ivanek are marginally newer, as the Red Bull now should be getting out of the way, as there's a bit of backlicks in the pits, and Mitch Snape is right on the back of Lepage and Markowski, who are going side by side, and Markowski on those old cars can do absolutely nothing against Lepage, who is right on the back of Ivanek now, although the softs probably would have lost a lot of their edge on the safety car, and he goes very wide and deep, which will allow both Markowski and Mitch to get straight back through, as Jimmy Enchuk will also be looking to get the position as out in front. But has now dropped 1.5 seconds off the back of Rona, maybe allowing Rona to sneak this win despite having that 3-second time penalty. So anything could happen this race, in all honesty, as Varga is now trying to go full move into Variante Alsa and is unable to pull it off, and that is just costing them heaps and piles of times, as the Alpine is using a bunch of battery, but again is unable to get past, as the gap's now up to 2.8 seconds to the leader, and all of this defending from Herbert is just making the gap bigger, and the Mercedes has quite a bit more battery than the Alpine or the Aston Martin behind, and it'll be interesting to see the effect of slipstream, as the Alpine pulls alongside but is needing to dump the entire battery, and it seems like Herbert is running a very skinny downforce setup and is able to maintain the position, as further back Ziemianchuk has been overtaken. However, right now we've got an intense battle for the lead, as unfortunately we have a spinner in turn 1. Also, Lepage is right on the back of Mitch Snape, although I'm lagging a bit, and also Pushniak has a bit of spin in the background, which is not optimal. We'll go back to the leaders again. I'm all with Ivanek, who's just stuck behind Varga, who's stuck behind Herbert, and it seems like Rona might be on for the win for this race all of a sudden, having been previously sitting in P3 with the time penalty. Though Lepage seems to not be giving up the fight against Mitch on these tyres. As we head through the lap one more time, and it seems like Herbert's had an excellent chicane, having gained a small amount of time to Rona and dropping Varga, so this really isn't looking too bad. Markovski as well in P5, despite being on 10 lap old hards, is sticking on very nicely, although has had to use the entire battery to do it as Lepage is going side by side with Mitch. He seems to be running a lot of downforce. Lepage has binned it, unless that's a lag bin. Seems to not be a lag bin. What's this pace that Herbert's just got? It's closed in almost a second to Rona and has almost dropped Varga out of DRS, so if you didn't have that penalty, you could be on for a podium. Macklick set the fastest lap on some pretty new soft lows, 30 seconds behind the lead, so not really in contention for a good result unless there is a second safety car, which will obliterate Rona's lead at the front. So I don't think the Asmas will be wanting that. Is Varga going to be close enough to Herbert? No, and messes up the chicane, so I'm not sure what's gotten into Herbert, but he's going pretty quickly now, as Varga's actually not within DRS. So I don't know what's happened to Herbert, but he's really found some pace, and Ivanek's going to just use his DRS to close in on the Alpine. 5 tenths, now 4 tenths, whilst being able to save the battery. As they now head into Tamburello, and I don't know how Herbert's picked up all this pace. I don't get it, but good for you, I guess. Yeah, I don't get where this pace is coming from. But Rona's also been able to hold the gap relatively constant out front, and this might be making Varga and Ivanek consider whether it was the right decision to box for new mediums off of their hards under the safety car, because they've lost track position, which has been pretty detrimental to them, although this time it's Ivanek who's out of DRS, as Zaluski gets 3 seconds for multiple warnings, and Ivanek is right on the bubble and is having to use a bunch of battery to get back within, although neither of them really have any battery whatsoever. Like, yeah, none of them, but Rona still got half a battery. Will Varga be able to go for a move? And that red light will be flashing now, and Ivanek will be able to see that. The Alpine is low. However, I think the Mercedes just about has it into turn 1 this lap, and the dirty air through the middle sector will allow Ivanek to just close straight back up. And the Mercedes is doing a very good defensive job right now, being able to keep the position, although it is unfortunate that there's a time penalty, although of course they can get removed if it is an unfair warning that gave the penalty. But this seems like an interesting race, and Herbert seems to have dropped off the pace a tiny bit now, as Ivanek's closed into the pair, and also Rona's pulling away a bit. Although it is side by side between Varga and Herbert just lets the Alpine through, although is this DRS tactics? Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. Although it's not F1 2021, although Herbert's using a lot of battery off the exit and then lifts off, so very indecisive, and then runs a bit deep into the corner, and really does not get a good run, and I think that's Gabriel Varga into P2, chasing after P1 right now, and I think there's absolutely nothing that Herbert can do on this straight, having messed up the DRS chicken or whatever. Although that Mercedes does seem to be a bit of a rocket ship, it's not enough of a rocket ship to make up for the bad exit, and that's a spin, unfortunately, for Herbert. So having been P2, now down to P6 and maybe P7. And now Ivanek and Varga are going to be fighting it out, and Ivanek has a bit more battery. And they seem fairly equal on pace overall, so this could be an interesting competition between them for the win, depending on whether Rowan is able to maintain that gap over the next 3 laps, because of course there's that 3-second time penalty that needs to be applied. And Ivanek's just using a small amount of battery to close into the Alpine. He seems to be taking a bit more speed through Variante Alta, and I just don't think Ivanek is going, even despite being within DRS, I don't think he's going to be able to close up close enough to then make the pass. And that Aston just doesn't seem 100% dialed in, it's only like 70% dialed in. At least it looks like that. One of the drivers might feel different. But Ivanek has actually gained quite a lot of time on the DRS straight, but Rona is also looking quite pretty. And the other Aston Martin is there's unfortunately a spin. I think that's the lap down car of Kuzniak, who has had a spinala. But also Dimienchuk is doing quite well to stick within DRS of Herbert, and just needs to wait for penalties to get applied, and then we'll get the position. Also, Gabor Vargas dropped out of DRS of penalty range of Rona, and Ivanek is quite a bit closer this lap, if I'm being completely honest. So this could be an open fight for the race win, although again the Alpine much stronger in Variante Alta. Now coming through into the final part of the lap, DeLucy gets the 3-second time penalty for multiple warnings. Now Ivanek opens DRS and is 9/10 back, but this could be a very tight race at the end, with Rona currently P1 3 seconds ahead, but with 3 seconds of time penalties. And this is going to be a very intriguing race. Anything else going on? Zalewski and Kuzniak are a lap down and fighting it out for P10, which is in fact points. Although that is not the line which to take through the corner. I think even with the ride height hacks, that's not what you want to do. Kuzniak's got way newer tyres, and also they're softer, so unsurprisingly quite a bit faster as Bakelik's back in the pits, probably to get fastest lap or whatever. As Ivanek again is like 8/10 behind Gabor Varga, and I think Rona just about has this for the win, probably. Kuzniak's had a spin though. It's unfortunate. We'll go back on our battle for P2, maybe P1, and I think Ivanek's not going to be close enough to go for this lap, as that is the final realistic overtaking opportunity. And they've also got to factor in that Rona is leading this race, but also Dimienchuk was maybe thinking about going for it on Herbert, but that Mercedes is a bit quick in a straight line, so not able to do anything as Herbert defends the inside line as they go into Villeneuve, and the Mercedes has the position, although has a penalty. I'm not sure why they're fighting so hard. But Ivanek is right on the back of Varga, who has dropped out of penalty range of Rona, which has surprised me a bit given that the Alpine showed so much pace at the start of the race. But I guess sometimes having track position and then being able to scamper is the best strategy. But again, Dimienchuk was quite close to the back of Herbert throughout Minerali, although the gap has expanded a bit. Although Rona comes out of the final corner to win the Emilia Romagna Grand Prix in F3. Saved by the safety car. Varga P2, Ivanek P3. So the championship leader gains 15 points to P2, gains 5 points to P3, and only loses 3 points to P4 in the standings. So, again, doing what's needed for the championship. Pushing that game to cross the line and maybe take fastest lap, but she's Baklik's still driving, I think so. I think Baklik's the final drive on the lead lap. I think he might possibly take fastest lap because it seems like he's used all his battery. And is he actually at the deployment limit for one lap? He is. That's actually very rare to do in a race on this game. It was very common last game, but not this game. And it is a 16.9, so fastest lap, which is going to be an additional point for the Alfa Romeo. Here are your race results for the Emilia Romagna Grand Prix. Verona takes P1 despite having a penalty after a very well-timed safety car, and also fighting between Herbert and the other potential leaders caused a large split, allowing the Aston Martin to pull out 3 seconds. Now here are all the incidents and all their pit stops. And I think I'll end the stream there. So thank you for watching, everyone, and see you next week. Actually, no, it's 2 weeks for the French Grand Prix. Bye.